This is Mental Fitness Matters. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. You are listening to Mental Fitness Matters. I am your host, Tracy Austin, and this is WSIC Radio. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone out there is having a great week. I am super excited about today's show. Well, I think I'm excited about every show, but I'm very excited about today's show because I'm going to be talking about one of the things that I consider a superpower when it comes to creating happiness and success in your own life. And for me, that is the ability to have a healthy and positive perspective. I honestly believe that having a healthy and positive perspective is powerful. And this is one of the quickest ways that you can begin to create happiness and success right now for you in your own life. And I'm not even really sure if people realize that this is something that we have the ability to change and really take control over. We can be in the driver's seat of our perspective and our mindset and how we show up. And when we think about perspective, it's everything. It's literally everything. It affects everything from the choices that we make to our lifestyle and career paths, to our relationships, and most importantly, it affects how we handle setbacks and adversity. It's everything. So when I think about perspective, the funny thing is that it is truly unique to all of us. It's influenced by past beliefs, experiences, and expectations, and how we view the world around us. So think about that for a second. Two people can engage in the same conversation, yet walk away with two totally different understandings of what was said, what was heard, and what was even meant to be said in that conversation. So think about conversations that you've had with family members and relationships, with colleagues at work. You can be in the same conversation and walk away from that conversation and feel like nobody heard anything you just said. You were misunderstood the whole time. So you can have two people that can also see the same thing. So you can be looking at the same movie, looking at the same photo, yet they can have two totally different interpretations of what they just saw. You can have two students sitting in the same classroom, being taught by the same teacher, learning the same lesson, but get two different conclusions of what was just taught in that same class. If you have a sibling, I challenge you to go back and just ask your sibling about memories growing up. You can have two siblings conceived by and born by the same parents, growing up in the same household, underneath the same roof with the same resources. And both of you, I guarantee, will describe a situation. You will have different memories about what you remember and what you heard and what you saw. So when we think about perspective, it's everything. And everything is perspective. So wrapping your head around this, I'm really excited to bring this show to you because I think once we can begin to wrap our head around that and make that mental switch, it's a game changer. It's a game changer in terms of how you take control over your life and how you create the happiness and success that you're looking for. Because this knowing and this understanding and awareness is no longer going to leave you at the mercy of a situation, of an individual or a circumstance. You're not going to have to wait on situations or things to happen to be happy. You're not going to have to wait for certain accolades to happen for you to be successful. You can begin to create that from right where you are right now. So there's one of the quotes by Dr. Wayne Dyer. I'm going to put a couple quotes in this. I know he said the first one. I'm not sure who I'm going to give him the credit to for the next two I'll report. But there's a quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer. It says, if you change the way you look at things, the way you look at things change. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is perspective, not truth. If you don't like something, change it. I think that's powerful. I can think about from my personal life, one of the aha moments in my life as it relates to perspective and hindsight being 2020. If you listened to this show before, you've probably heard me tell this story, but I'm a former student athlete at Wake Forest University. And so one of the biggest moments in my life that I realized how big and how important perspective was when I was in my sophomore year at Wake Forest University playing basketball. So growing up, a little backstory shortly, growing up, basketball was all I could think about. That's all I could breathe, eat, sleep, basketball. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play basketball forever. So academically, I performed well, but I really didn't put much time there. I was just a good student, made good grades, but I didn't really put much focus on that. I spent more time focusing on basketball. My sophomore year, college, we were coming back from an away game. There was a paper due. I was completing that paper on the way back on that bus. And I forgot to add my sources cited page and turn my paper into my professor. And I got suspended from school for a semester. That was, in my head in that moment, one of the most detrimental times of my life. And I thought at that time, life is over. Now what? Because basketball was all I knew. Basketball was all I cared about. But it turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because being suspended from school for that semester helped me really get focused on all of who I was. I recognized that I wasn't just an athlete. I wasn't just a basketball player. I also had a brain. So being suspended from school for that semester, I got a chance to go over to NC State. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I got a chance to go to NC State and complete my courses there so I could stay on track in terms of my class. My parents were able to get me a trainer so I could stay in physical shape. So when I came back to play basketball at Wake, I was ready to go physically. But in that moment, I had a chance to think about that as the worst thing that could have happened to me or to make an opportunity out of it. So my focus was able to switch and recognize I'm not just a basketball player. I have a brain. I got interested in things that I didn't even realize that I was interested in. I learning about psychology. I love learning about people. I love learning about the psychology of sport. So that is really where I found more of who I was in that moment. That setback, that downfall, that opportunity was something for me to grow from. So we can easily get so caught up in what we see and what is that we can miss or block ourselves off from the more that is happening right now. You know, and I think about that perspective and how when I look back and years going, I would not be where I am today doing the things that I'm doing right now had I not been suspended from school. Because that really helped me switch my focus. It got me really geared in on mental fitness and having to really bounce back from adversity, conversations that we need to be having with student athletes and people in general about mental fitness and taking care of ourselves. So I know that moment for me was a game changer. So think about that for your own life right now, in your own situation. What's going on in your current situation that you're having thoughts about? Or circumstances that are no longer serving you? What perspectives do you hold about a past situation, about a belief or a circumstance that could be keeping you stuck? Think about it for yourself, because we have perspectives about everything, whether that's in business, whether that's in your relationships, whether that's in your health. We have perspectives about money. We have perspectives about time. We have perspectives about happiness and success. So do a deep dive and ask yourself, is there a program that you're running in your mind right now that every time you think about that thing or every time that situation is brought to your attention, it produces an emotional response that you don't like? Whether that's fear, anger, resentment, guilt, stress, anxiety, sadness, think about it. So if there's something that you're wanting to do or wanting to be or wanting to have or wanting to explore, but your perspective of that thing is keeping you stuck, I got good news for you today, folks. You can change that. You can change that. Not somebody else, not the situation needing to change, but you can change it right now from right where you are. The question you need to begin to ask yourself is, why not you? Why not now? Why not us? It starts right now, and it starts with your perspective. So there's so many people in this current moment living from a perspective that's no longer serving you. You're telling yourself a story that's 10 years old that no longer applies here. So we have to really begin to think about how we're bringing in or perceiving other people's opinions of us, your opinions of yourselves, your thoughts about what you're thinking in terms of how success needs to look. So we have to really start to break down these perceptions and figure out, is this healthy for me right now, or did this just serve me a while back and no longer serving me now? Okay, because so many things are keeping us stuck. There's one of my mentors that I really love to learn from. I'm going to meet him one day. His name's Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a chiropractic doctor, and his postgraduate training was in the field of neuroscience and neuroplasticity, QEEG measurements, epigenetics, mind-body medicine, and brain-heart coherence. He's amazing. He said that 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, unconscious beliefs, automatic emotional reactions, hardwired attitudes and perceptions that function just like a computer program. Guys, that means that the moment that we wake up or the moment that we press go, we go unconscious back into old patterns and behaviors that may or may not be serving us. And a lot of times we don't even realize it because it's so automatic. So think about that. If 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 is unconscious programming, ask yourself, how are you walking out into the world? What is your lens like? What are you seeing? A lot of what we're seeing is our past beliefs and expectations of the world and how we view that. And so a lot of things we're just doing it because that's just what we used to do. And that's what our family members did. And that's what our community does. So that's what we follow. And that old saying is, we don't see things how they are. We see things as we are. That's powerful. And I think with that knowledge and with that awareness, a lot of what we're experiencing and expecting are coming from our past beliefs and our past expectations. That has a big influence on us. So the very first tip that I want to give my Mental Fitness Matters community as it relates to creating happiness and success is starting right here. The first tip I want you to know is that it's okay to question and change your perspective. It's okay to question these thoughts and perspectives and where they're coming from. Ask yourself, is this real or is this a story I am making up? Is this the truth or is this just something that I'm making up from a past experience? So evaluate whether it's a feeling you felt before, because if it is, this could be something that you're allowing your past to show up too much in your present. Think about right now, especially in terms of who you are. You may be the first family member to go to college, the first entrepreneur in your family, the first one to really come up on success. You may be attempting to search for a new job or new career that's unfamiliar to you or anybody that's around you. So it could be common for you to begin to have a thought that, you know what? Nobody has ever done this. I've never seen this happen, never seen this play out. So why should I even think that I should have this opportunity or give it a shot? That type of perspective, you want to begin to pause, because if questions like that and thoughts like that are keeping you stuck, it's okay to pause and question that perspective. Yes, it's very normal that the unknown and even past fears, hurts, and disappointments can set us back to memories of fear and those feelings that come up. And we react from that place. And that's normal. And that's what 95% of the people are doing. So it takes work and courage to see other possibilities and really shift your perspective. So recognizing those triggers, recognizing those thoughts, and allowing yourself to question your thoughts has to become a daily practice, okay? So tip number 1, question your perspectives, because what we know about our brain and our thoughts is that the way we think about specific situations affects how we feel emotionally, physically, and that alters our behavior. So that can keep us stuck. So some of those things, a lot of times when we're running up against situations, a lot of things are outside of our control. And it's not our job to control other people or to control the situation or circumstance. It's our job to control us. When I just gave you that example about my situation at Wake Forest University, I got suspended from school for a semester. I chose the behavior. I didn't get to choose the consequence. Okay. So once that decision was made that I was suspended from school, I could have stayed in that place and said, oh, my life is over. This is it. There's nothing else to do. But thankfully, I was able to go to NC State and still continue my education. Thankfully, my parents were able to provide resources so that I could get a personal trainer and stay in physical shape. Thankfully, I got into the school and applied myself like I knew I should have been doing and could have been doing all along, but I hadn't done. So thankfully, I had that opportunity. And when I came back to school that next semester, I was in the driver's seat. I applied myself in the classroom. I showed up as more than an athlete. I was a student athlete at that point. That meant a whole different term to me. I showed up. I made the dean's list, graduated from Wake with honors, all ACC defender. I changed the narrative in that moment. It was that circumstance and setback that allowed me to see a bigger opportunity in terms of who I was. So many of us have so many gifts and talents, but if we're so fixated on a linear path, A to B, we're not opening up our world to more opportunities and exploration of who we are. We're limiting ourselves, and we're limiting our opportunities. And that's not fair to you. It's no longer okay to allow yourself to be stuck because everyone will have their own response to situations around them. So you have to notice if there is a perspective that's keeping you stuck, you got to recognize what's holding you back, and you got to deliberately choose another way to approach that scenario or situation. That's where your power is. That's where your power is. In your situations right now, you may be in a healthy relationship for the first time. You may have only experienced unhealthy relationships, but you may be in a healthy relationship for the first time. You may be working for a boss who values and appreciates you and sees you for the first time. You may have downtime like you've never had before that allows you to dream, allows you to create, and allows you to spend time on a side hustle that you've been waiting to do, but you've been so busy you never had time. So really being able to say, how are we approaching situations? What are these thought patterns that I have about things in my life? What perspectives am I coming to the table with that could be limiting my potential for growth and opportunity? Okay. Our thoughts and the way we react to events in our lives can make things worse or make things better. And we get to decide every single time. And if we're showing up with a fixed mindset in that place that we only see one path forward, all or nothing, it has to be this way, then we leave very little room for us to grow, for us to mature, for us to prosper, to us to be all that we're called to be. We cut ourselves off every single time, and we may not be knowing that we're doing it. So every day we have to decide, how are we going to show up? Every day you're going to be faced with something, a decision that you're going to have to interact with others. How are you going to show up? You can't wait for somebody else to show up and make the condition right. You have the power to say, you know what? I'm bringing a different energy and perspective into the room today. That's my job. That's all I can control. Okay. So how you really begin to change your perspective and create happiness and success. Notice I said not get happiness and success. It's to create it, is number one, by starting to question your thoughts, asking yourself that question. Number two, what I want you to do is step outside of your perspective for a moment. If you are thinking about the information that I provided, that all the way to 35, we're living off past beliefs and expectations. I want you to step outside of that expectation, that perspective for a moment. If you're surrounded by negativity, lack mindsets, fixed mindsets, can't do thinking, then you're going to get really weighed down very quickly. You're going to have to be willing to change your scenery and do something different to actively separate yourself from that place or that space. You can be in communities, you can be in environments, you can be in chat groups that you may have joined at one time for a specific reason, but that reason is no longer there and it's really no longer serving you. So step back from the perspective of why it is you're doing what you're doing. Ask yourself that question, reevaluate, get new data and information, and then make a decision based on, is it serving you now in the way that you thought that it would or the way that it once was? Okay, so give yourself permission to step back from that. And if you're someone working on creating a healthy and positive perspective, and you're noticing that the people around you aren't supporting you in that way, and they're really not igniting that fire, they're really kind of dwindling your flames out, make a decision to change. It's okay. It's okay to change that up. You might can't hang out with them 4 days a week. You might can only do 2. That's okay. So give yourself permission to step outside of that, and also be willing to put yourself in other people's shoes, guys. Consider the perspective of others, okay? Not from a space of judgment or criticism or envy, but from a space of curiosity. I just told you that 35 years, most of our programming is from past experiences, past expectations, past beliefs. So if people are walking in with a vision and a view, it's coming from a place. So we need to be more compassionate and step back and say, you know what? I'm curious. I want to learn. Maybe what I know is from what I know, and that's all I can provide, but I can also be willing to hear and listen and learn. Okay. So what other approaches that you haven't, what are some other approaches that you might not have considered? So be curious, step into somebody else's shoes. And once you've kind of entertained and listened to what they've said, then you can have a chance to decide what you do next. All right. Number 3, remind yourself you're in control of how you view a situation. You get to decide. So I challenge you guys to look yourselves in the mirror and ask yourself a question, especially if you're coming up against a perspective that you're having to challenge and fight. That's something you've been doing all your life. You didn't even realize that this was a blocker or keeping you stagnant or keeping you afraid or keeping you stuck. You want to just remind yourself, okay, this is a new day, new opportunity. I'm in the driver's seat today. How would the best version of me handle or think about this situation? What would her or his perspective be? Okay, so give yourself permission to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm in control of how I show up today and my perspective on this thing. How do I want to show up with it? And then I want you to create, after you've done that, create a toolbox, guys. Create a toolbox of examples of the perspectives that you want, especially if you find yourself, if you're someone who generally goes to, I can't do, this is not for me, success only are for people that ... money is only when you can ... Whatever the things are, whatever your perspectives are, I challenge you to create a toolbox of examples with the perspectives that you want to have. Okay, create a new list that you can begin to operate from. Remember, this is a programming. So we got to begin to reprogram. So, for example, if you're wanting happiness and you're wanting success, you don't have to, if your idea of success or happiness is losing 20 pounds, whatever that weight goal may be for yourself, you don't have to wait until you lose 20 pounds to get excited about this. You are starting to work out today. You're starting to work out tomorrow. You want to just celebrate those small wins. You're doing something right now to get you to that goal. So you can start to create a new list of the perspectives that you want. Okay. So it's okay to have in your mind what it is that you want to have happen. Create a list in that toolbox so that you can begin to say, you know what? If I'm working on changing my perspective to be more positive and happy around success, what am I listening to? You might want to put in that toolbox podcast. You might want to put in that toolbox books. You might want to put in that toolbox a group of people or friends that are happy, that are successful, that are doing the things that you want to do, that are talking about mindset. Create a toolbox, guys, that you can go to really help reprogram your thinking and change your perspective over to more of what you want it to be. All right. And the last tool I want to give you guys is to pause. Give yourself permission to pause. I think a lot of our thoughts around what things are, we can say, this is the worst moment of my life. This is the worst day of my life. And we can make decisions based off an emotion and without giving ourselves pause. Life is long. No matter where you are in the spectrum of life, we're all somewhere on this thing, in this journey called life. It's long. So give yourself permission to just pause and take a moment. A lot of things we're faced with, if you can just breathe and step back, see the bigger picture. Don't make a decision based off of what is right now, but step back and see how this situation can change. What are some things that I can do? I might not have the answers today, but the answers are on the way. So change your mindset and perspective around what you're thinking. The happiest and most resilient people are willing to admit that they don't have all the answers. And they understand that sometimes failure happens. It's just natural. It's what we need a lot of times to learn. But that tiny shift in perspective can really change how you show up for yourself and how you show up for other people. You know, and so if you have a perspective right now that is causing you to be stuck, that is making you doubt yourself. If you're feeling like, you know what, I'm too old, it's too late, I can't start this business, it's too late to do this. If you're feeling I'm too young, I'm too early, nobody will respect me. What if you change that perspective and add it to your toolbox? I'm right on time. Maybe if the things and the self-doubt that you're having about yourself, maybe if the perspective shifted from I'm too early or too late to I'm right on time. Everything is working out for me. And it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to start down a journey today, guys, and recognize that, you know what, that's no longer working for me. Changing your mind, especially when new data and new information is entered into our environments. Think about technology. Think about how fast things are changing. Things are changing so quickly. It's okay to change your mind and change your perspective. This allows room for growth. Okay? So, Mental Fitness Matters community, I want you to know your perspective is your superpower. You don't have to wait on things to make you happy or things to make you successful. Go out and create it right now. Reassess, reevaluate all the things that are keeping you stuck, all your perspectives around everything in your life. Start to reevaluate, start to step back, give yourself moments of pause, create a healthy toolbox and a healthy perspective, and see how that works for you. I want you to send me a message. Let me know how that's going. I want us to shine bright like the stars that we are. We are in the driver's seat here, guys. I want you to share this message. If it was helpful for you, pass it along to somebody else. Go out and have a great week. Be kind, be nice, love yourself. Shine bright like the stars that you are. I can't wait to see you guys next week. Have a great week.